bit of time looking forward now. It's actually really exciting. We've got the Generations series coming up, and we're starting off with a week that kind of intros the whole Generation series. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So we've got Brian worship leading at 10 a.m. I think Chris is going to be speaking.
Yeah, man, I'm really pumped about it. So yeah. I've done a little bit of preparation for this. Because we added this on. I think if we organize around this one line, expect the unexpected. And then I got this costume that I've been like prepping for ages because it's jungle theme, right? So this Sunday, I think, will be such a great impact on the congregation.
Wait, is it this Sunday?
Yeah, this Sunday. What? This Sunday. We're starting this Sunday. Yeah.
But this Sunday we're in Japan. You're where?
Wait.
Okay,
when did you confirm that you were speaking this Sunday?
Okay, so I knew there was a reason why we left out this week and we left it blank. It's because we're in Japan. Okay. Okay, so really, we're gonna expect the unexpected. All right. Okay, so maybe what we'll do is, okay, I've still got a bit of time, so we'll work out something. Maybe I'll tap your husband.
Does he know?
He will soon. Okay, don't worry, we'll solve it. We're good.
Morning, church. So that's kind of how it happened, and the amount of notice that I got was probably about the same, right? And so the theme today is expect the unexpected. I got a call from Chris and said, "Oh, hey, I'm going to Japan," and so we need to sort out this service and this sermon for both services, and so along with that theme, there's some good news. And good news for not just you guys, good news for me too, is that Chris and I will actually be tag teaming today's service, and so it's going to be a little bit different. We're gonna hear from Chris in a second, and then we're going to do some little activities along the way. So I will see you very shortly. But for now, if you could just welcome Chris, who's going to deliver part of our message today.
Hi, church. Hey, many weeks ago when we were planning this service, we tried to craft a service that would, be unexpectedly different from our regular Sunday. Little did we know that my bad planning and lack of communication would actually lead to me volunteering to speak on a Sunday where my family and I are actually away on our family holiday. I guess it's probably the best introductory illustration of how sometimes our life doesn't go according to plan. Maybe through our choices, from bad choices, maybe through the choices of others, maybe even through God's divine intervention or even attacks of the enemy, sometimes the unexpected happens. At some kind of level, right, we all know this. I mean, we've literally come out of a global pandemic that no one, not even the brightest people in the world, expected. In fact, it had consequences that nobody could have anticipated. Yet, today's modern life gears us up with an expectation to get predictable results from predictable inputs. Like when I go to McDonald's, I order a large Big Mac meal, right? And I predictably, I know how much that's gonna cost. I know when I get the meal, I have a good idea of what I'm gonna get. Salt, sugar, processed meat in a bag, right? I mean, and what happens though when it doesn't turn out the way we expect? Well, if my Big Mac meal doesn't come like I planned, well, we are conditioned to complain. The product or the service wasn't what we were expecting. Australia actually has great consumer protection laws. So when things don't go according to plan or as promised, we actually can hold companies accountable. I remember a few years ago, I bought a headphone set, a really nice pair of headphones, right? And it had a 2-year warranty, which By the way, all Australian products have this, electronic products have this 2-year warranty. It was pretty expensive and I used it all the time. But on the last month of the warranty, I think it was the last week of the warranty, the headphones died. Well, it was like crackling a bit, right? I couldn't hear things. And no, I didn't sabotage it. It just happened. Anyway, I brought it back to JB Hi-Fi, and because it was within the 2-year warranty, they actually allowed me to get brand new headphones. And they didn't have the old model available. They gave me the new model of these headphones that are foldable and had a lot of extra features in it. And they extended the warranty. Again, I'm like, whoa, this is great. This is great customer service. Exactly what I would expect for something that I paid a lot of money for. Unfortunately, this kind of thinking can bleed into our Christian life. I think in many ways, today's regular church, and in some ways, even FGA, right? Our regular church almost sets us up to expect the same thing. You come on a Sunday and you broadly know what to expect. It starts at a set time, it finishes roughly at a set time. There's worship, announcements, sermon, right? There's kids ministry, there's youth ministry. You know the speaker, maybe you like the pastor, right? You have a favorite place that you sit. It's rare that your Sunday afternoon or evening plans or even the next week will change dramatically as a result of something that happened in a Sunday service. And that's not just Sunday service, right? It can bleed into the Christian value proposition even, or the Christian equation, if you will. I give God a lot. I sow in my loyalty, my time, resources, and God, you should give me the things that I expect. After all, that's why we like sending our kids to Sunday school, church activities, Christian schools, these kind of things. We do this for a lot of life. We chase education, career, sports, whatever, right? To get the outcome that we would expect from it. And I'm not against making good choices. So many of these choices are wise choices. It is a wise choice for you to be here at FGA in service today. It's a wise choice for you to study for your exam and then to get a good result. But I understand that we can actually start out life thinking that everything then will go according to plan. We have kids in our Christian home, right? Christian home, and we would expect they would grow up to be a Christian. Or maybe we marry a godly spouse. And so then we expect that our marriage will go well, especially if they're Christian, right? At least it would last the whole of my life. Or we think, I will get along with my mother-in-law. You know why? She's a godly woman. Or I've worked hard and I've studied hard, so I should be able to keep my job. But what happens when things don't turn out how we expect them to be? I mean, even if the wise choice produces 90% of the time a good outcome, right? Because it's a wise choice, so 90% of the time it goes well. There's still the 10%, right? And then you multiply many times over this 10%, you multiply it over various decisions, many decisions in our life, maybe 100,000 times over your lifetime. And that means that there are going to be parts of your life that don't go as expected. Which is fine, except that when we take on what I'm going to call a cruise mentality to Christian life, then we react to pitfalls and changes and dangers and unexpected turns by complaining to the captain. We go, hey, this is not the cruise that I signed up for. I call it a cruise mentality because, in a cruise, right? In a cruise, everything is done for you. Your job is just to pay the money and then attend. And all the food, entertainment, safe journey, whatever, is all looked after. But if you have a cruise mentality, then you get stumbled when things go wrong in life. Church people, maybe they were not as friendly as you expected. The pastor wasn't as organized as you thought. I've seen this happen so often. God gets the blame. He gets the blame for not giving you the life that He supposedly promised you, the one that you expected. That's why you came on this cruise. Let's look at today's passage. It's in Acts 27, verse 9 to 12. And it's up there, but, I'll read it to you. Let's set the scene. There's a ship and we're sailing. So it's like a sailing cruise story. Paul is on his missionary journeys, and we're almost at the end of his missionary journeys. The book of Acts actually begins with Christianity starting out in Jerusalem, and then it goes out Judea, Samaria, and heads out, right? Interestingly, Acts ends with the gospel reaching Rome. And as you know, all roads lead to Rome, right? And so indeed it was like this because Rome also had developed the world's largest road system at the time. And so the gospel goes from Jerusalem and it hits Rome at the end of Acts. And from there, the gospel traveled out to the ends of the earth, and Rome became the center of Christianity. But let's read this as they head towards Rome. Since much time had passed, and the voyage was now dangerous, because even the fast was already over, Paul advised them, these people in the boat, saying, "Sirs, I perceive that the voyage will be with injury and much loss, not only of cargo and the ship, but also of our lives." He's like, hey, might be a dangerous trip. But the centurion paid more attention to the pilot and to the owner of the ship than to what Paul said. And because the harbor was not suitable to spend winter in, the majority decided to put out to sea from there on the chance that somehow they could reach Phoenix, a harbor of Crete, facing both southwest and northwest, and spend the winter there. So Paul goes on this journey. He says it will be dangerous, but the system of the day, the pilot, the owner, the majority, whatever it is, they decided, no, we've sailed before. Pay attention to us. We're just going to go ahead. And anyway, this trip doesn't go according to plan. In Acts 27, 9 to 12, it goes, now, that was 9 to 12. And now we read on to 13 to 20. Now, when the south wind blew gently, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, they weighed anchor and sailed along to Crete, close to the shore. But soon, a tempestuous wind called the northeaster struck down from the land. And when the ship was caught and could not face the wind, we gave way to it and were driven along, running under the lee of a small island called Cauda. We managed with difficulty to secure the ship's boat. After hoisting it up, they used supports to undergird the ship. Then, fearing that they would run aground on the Syrtis, they lowered the gear, and thus they were driven along. Since we were violently storm-tossed, they began the next day to jettison cargo, throwing away things, right? And on the third day, they threw the ship's tackle overboard with their own hands, when neither sun nor stars appeared for many days. Let's go. Overboard with their own hands, when neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, and no small tempest lay on us, all hope of our being saved was at last abandoned. So many things happen here. You should read this passage. There's heavy storms. They don't know how long they're going to be at sea for, so they're not eating their food, right? They think they're going to die. Paul kind of reassures them. They get shipwrecked on a reef, and they actually want to kill all the passengers, including Paul, right? Because they don't know what to do with the prisoners that are on the boat. Anyway, it turns out it's the island of Malta that they land on. And Paul, when they get out of this onto the island, Paul gets bitten by a poisonous animal. And there's a miracle because he doesn't die from the poison. In fact, he also does many miracle healings on the island, meeting with the chief there and his father and various people. And the people in Malta, they witness this miracle, and Malta gets evangelized. It turns out Malta stays Christian even all the way until today, where I just Googled their Christian population. 90% of their population believes in Jesus Christ. Right? So anyway, these islanders, they helped with the supplies for the ship, and they actually help Paul make it to Rome, where the gospel goes forward. What a crazy story. Now, in the end, the gospel goes out. It's good. But was it a cruise? I don't think so. I think if you read the book of Acts, even the whole Bible, or if you study the early church, you'll find that the Christian journey, our missionary journey, is actually more like a jungle cruise. That's right. And now, It's actually that the captain would be more like that of a Jungle Cruise skipper. Like this. Anyway, Jungle Cruise skipper, right? Before this job, I worked in an orange factory. That's right, an orange juice factory. But I got canned. Couldn't concentrate. They put the squeeze on me. It's now about, that's a Jungle Cruise joke, by the way. It's now about navigating the dangers and the pitfalls of the jungle. We're dealing with the unexpected. We have to be alert. We have to be ready for anything so that the mission can go forward, so that you can finish the race. You can get to the final destination and complete the journey. Right now, we're going to do something that we don't usually do in a Sunday service. We're going to break out into groups and have a discussion for 15 minutes. You're going to have to get out of your comfort zone and talk, maybe with someone you don't really know well. Let's aim for groups of 4 to 5 people. Feel free to turn your chairs around and spend a little bit of time introducing yourself and getting to know one another. It's always going to be good for our relational series, the generation series, right? But when you break out into groups, it would be good actually to try to include somebody from a different generation as well. Anyway, here are the questions you will be asking, and we're going to put it up on the screen later. But when you're in a group, I want you to talk about what are some of the standard expectations that you have in life. Go around and try to have a good discussion about, hey, what are you expecting? Expecting your marriage to work out, or I don't want to give you too many ideas. You can come up with what your expectations are of life, or even of church, or of Christianity, whatever that is. Then after everybody's had a go, talk about what would your current, very honest reaction be if that expectation was not met. Share within the group. Can I just advise you to keep your talking relatively short so that everybody in your group has a turn. Right now, I'll hand over to JP, who will facilitate this section. See ya.
All right. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we're going to do this quite quickly. So we're going to have to move around a little. So as Chris sort of said, if we can sort of either turn your chairs or turn around, get into groups of 4 or 5, grab some people that are from a different generation to you, because it's always great to listen to some different perspectives. So let's try and do that in the next 10 to 15 seconds. Yeah? And when you are in your groups, can you nominate one person to be the Slido? So there's a QR code. All right, let's go. We're getting into groups. Cool. I think we're most people in groups. Okay, just if we can just turn our attention to the screen for 1 second. Once you're in your groups, I just need 10 seconds before you can start talking again. Shh. It's amazing. Like, I learned that from kids ministry. So one person in your group, use that QR code to get into the Slido. Yep. When you're in the Slido, what we're going to do first is we're going to just answer the first question, which is, what are some of the standard expectations you have in life? And just capture them down really quickly, whatever comes to mind, because then what we're going to do is we're going to just see what everyone is kind of saying. It's anonymous, don't worry about it. But it's just going to be interesting to see how different groups respond to that question. So get the Slido from one person in your group, and let's just, in the next just few minutes, answer what are some of the standard expectations you have in life. All right, go. Good to see some people getting into the Slido. That's great. Oh, this is great. How are we going? Okay, everyone answering some of these things. Okay, I'll start. So we've got some really interesting responses so far. This is great. So we've got like some of the big ones here. Everyone's worried about health. Everyone wants to be healthy. Everyone wants to go through life smooth sailing. Sounds a little bit like being on a cruise, yeah? A++. That's an interesting one. Someone was honest. Rich and famous. Wise children. I like this one. Salvation for the family. Whoever wrote the Chinese can put your hand up and translate for us. Things to turn out well, starting a good family, growing my career, work stability. We're pretty aligned. We wanted to do this because we wanted to see sort of how diverse the responses. How diverse the responses would be. Let's see, growing career, retirement, success, to have food to eat. Well, if you attend this church, you definitely don't need to worry about that. Work hard to get good grades. All right, so I think we're pretty... I think that was sort of as expected. I think a lot of those responses were kind of as expected. What we're going to do for the next few minutes now is to reflect on those responses, what you expect in your life, and to answer the second question. So I don't know, Nick, are we able to use the Slido or no for the second? We can't. Okay, so this is just a conversation amongst your group. What would your current honest reaction be if that expectation was not met? If that didn't happen in your life, right? If you weren't able to achieve that health, good family, job, financial, all of those things. If you couldn't achieve that or that didn't happen for you, what would your honest reaction be? Just have have a conversation for a few minutes. And actually, I might just pop around quickly and we might get some responses as we go. But I'll give you guys a few minutes. Talk among yourselves and talk about that. What would your honest reaction be if that didn't happen for you? Hopefully the discussion's going well. Really try to dig into, below the surface. How would you feel? What would your reaction be? What would you do about it? Who would you turn to? And also, what impact would it have on your faith? All right, so I'm just going to come around and let's see. Okay. Hello, I'm going to come into this group because I'm related to some of these people. But I'll pick on Martin here. Martin, can you tell us a little bit about what some of your group discussed?
Yeah, so we discussed.
Just be with me. Okay. Sorry, guys. We're just going to hear from a few different groups, and so. Shh. I know it's great. We do love. There will be more time. Martin, can you tell us a little bit about what your group discussed and in terms of expectations, and then what if they weren't met?
So the expectation is pretty much, similar, like comfortable life, healthy, and a good marriage and obedient children. So, well.
I don't know how well I did. This is my dad and my mum.
So, what if that is not met? The expectation is not met. So, we saying like we keep faith in God, that God will help to, help us. Just have faith in God, like before the song, like God, mountain can be moved. And, so have a positive attitude. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you, Martin. Let's see. Hello. What did your group discuss?
We're discussing that our children, we have children, but not everybody attending church. And some of them have walked away. So that is what we first think of. Then secondly is that we pray for them, keep praying for them, hoping that they'll come to church one of these days, and hope that they will meet the right person, that they bring them along to Christ again.
Some of the people in the group had expectations for a successful career, a house, and all that. I think we shared that the current reaction, sometimes you might be a bit jealous of other people who have potentially obtained what you can obtain. And so, yeah.
That's great. Look, that's really good to just dig below the surface, because I think we all have those sorts of reactions, and they're not always good reactions, right? But they're real. Let's see. I'll come over to this side. Hello.
Hello. We talked about similar kind of themes, so a successful job, career, partners, happy wife, happy life kind of thing. And I think some of the expectations as we were going around, we kind of shared about, I think we had some the Christian answer. So we talked about, we can be challenged and we can lead into God, we can pray and seek guidance from Him. And I really liked what Pastor Kit said. So he was saying that he personally would have felt that it would have sucked, kind of that, he would actually really question God and even potentially get to a point where he might even blame God. And that's quite sobering, because the thought of that, I think, really reflects kind of the relationship that we have with God and whether we truly trust His ways over our own way. And I think it's quite important to know that God is the ruler and sovereign over our lives. Even though we may have certain plans, it's important to know that God's ways are higher and greater than ours, even though we plan it out. So, yeah, it's okay to question and be in doubt, because a lot of characters or people in the Bible and stories in the Bible had that same experience.
That's great. That's great. That's really good, because I think, even sometimes we don't want to admit it, that we do have these questions, and we do question our faith. We do think, God, why has this happened to me? So let me come all the way to the back here. Hello.
Hi. Our group spoke about expectations of health and being able to provide for your family, and I think the first reactions we would have was sadness or anger or questioning God. Those are in short.
All very, very, natural, feelings. And I think if we reflect, I think we've all been in those situations before where, we sometimes, blame God, but even worse sometimes, we don't even think about God, right? Everyone's pointing. Here we go, Cindy. This is what you want to do more of.
Not supposed to say that. I think we've got a good mix of ages in our group. I think we all want to have a long life. We want to have good spouse, good children. That's the standard expectation. But what if things the unexpected happen? Some will be sad, some will be unhappy, some would be lost. But because we personally as a family have actually gone through the unexpected, so I think for us it would be that trust. It's like nothing phases anymore because we've actually gone through it and God has been faithful to us, so we're just going to ride it through with Him again. That's awesome. Look, I think that they've been really, really great responses, and I think very real responses that we go through when we face these troubled times, when we literally, kind of go through the jungle. And so, thank you, everyone. I know that it's never enough when when you start talking, and it's really actually great that we're able to share part of our lives with each other and to really, come into this setting, plug for home groups, because this is what home group is like, every week. When you meet, you get to do life together, you get to go through the jungle together. And so we are now going to just turn our attention back onto Chris, who's going to deliver the next part of our sermon. So if you can, turn your chairs around. I'll give you a minute or two for that, and then we're going to continue the message.
All right, how did that discussion go? I wish I was there with you. But let's wrap up our discussion and let's get right into today's passage. Turn with me to James 4:13-15. It says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and we will spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and then do this or that." Here, James, the brother of Jesus, says, don't live your life by remote control, right? Don't have such concrete plans that you just end up doing whatever it takes to produce the results that you imagined in your mind. Today, tomorrow, I will have 2 children, and one will be a doctor and the other will be an accountant. Don't do that. Instead, continually ask, what is the Lord's will for me? And what needs to change? We've actually been slowly adjusting the church post-pandemic to build greater and greater resilience. We're trying to build chaos into our Sunday routine. I actually don't think that highly predictable, very smooth services or church ministries actually produce resilient Christians who are ready for the jungle. That's why we swap people out, we give new people a go, we have people on duty or that are on stage that are perhaps learning. That's why we have kids in the service, or we go over time for ministry and things like that. Let me tell you about the US Navy SEALs, okay? They are like the best in the world, especially in terms of training. But they used to have these purpose-built facilities where computers would time their reaction time, give lots of statistics about, how fast did you shoot the person, how fast did you run up the ladder or whatever it is. And they would do specific drills that they would repeat again and again and again so that they could master it, right? They would go through these scenarios and they would improve their timing. But at the same time, these facilities were top-notch, right? So they had good toilets, there was a gym. For some reason, the US Navy SEALs don't allow photos of their whole facility. I don't know why. But this was the only photo I could get, right? But they have a gym for working out. The place was clean, modern. It turned out then that when real war conditions came up, real ones, especially in the desert in Afghanistan, where the militants that they were facing were using unorthodox attack methods. There was terrible living conditions with heat, unsanitary beds and accommodations, right? They found actually that this kind of specialized, nice, clean training didn't help as much. And a lot of soldiers were unprepared for the kind of warfare that they had to engage in. It turns out now, today, they don't even train like this anymore. Today's elite soldiers aren't heading into a building every Sunday to get trained in air-conditioned rooms, running drills for predetermined scenarios. No. Instead, the best in the world are now being thrown into the wild. They stay in rough conditions. They are taught to deal with unexpected scenarios, and they learn to be resilient and to adapt on the fly. We're actually like SEAL Team 6. You are training to be salt and light. We need to be Christians for every generation, I guess. We need Christians that can handle the complexities of today's modern life, the various uncertainties that it will inevitably bring. How will you handle your crisis? Your Christian faith needs to be ready. It has to have a strong, resilient faith with a very firm foundation. Oftentimes we think that God can only use us when we are perfect, when things are in a good state, right? When we're in calm waters. So then what we do is we turn down offers to be a leader or to do missions or to reach out to people, and we say, I'm not ready. Now is not the time. I'm waiting for things to calm down in my life. Actually, God needs us in the field. Our training is in the jungle. Our faith needs to be good and strong. But we ourselves don't have to be strong. That's why I love this verse, this jars of clay verse, right? It says, therefore we don't lose heart, though we're wasting away. Maybe we're getting older, whatever it is, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us, these struggles that we have, they're achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. So we don't look at the circumstances that we have and we still press on. Over the course of the next month, we're going to be looking at the different generations. Each week we'll zoom in on a specific generation, whether it's the Gen X's or the millennials or the upcoming Gen Z's. It's Gen Z's, right? We will uncover the obstacles that they encounter in their pursuit of faith and how they will navigate through, we'll look at how they navigate through the wild jungle of their time, of their generation. From the pressures of technology to the shifting cultural landscapes, each generation faces its own exciting set of challenges. It'll be pretty cool, actually. We'll have special activities, different items. There'll be services run by each individual generation. So can I encourage you to invite your friends along for it and come along for yourself? Okay, let's end, right? God doesn't promise us that life will go as we expect it. In fact, He's not like a cruise salesman that promises us a smooth ride. But that doesn't mean that we can't have any expectations about God, that we can't trust God at all. In fact, What we do need, we can trust God, but we need to have the correct expectations of God, one that is consistent with Scripture and His character. So what are some of these things? Well, some of the biblical expectations of God, let's move this. Some of the biblical expectations of God, right, are that He will have a personal relationship with you. He will be closer than a brother. You can expect God to save you. Ultimate eternal salvation even, the one that really counts. You can expect God to give you the Holy Spirit. You can expect that Christ will return to rule and restore all things. And it's not just the big things. Even though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we can expect God to be with us. And there are many more. It's actually not wrong to have expectations of God. In fact, faith, it says faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. That means that there are things we need to hope for, things that we need to expect or place our faith or trust in. We just have to be careful because those things, these things, they're not the world's norm. It's not what we would normally expect, right? How many of you in the discussion said you live life and you expect God to be God or to, it's not the normal things that we would rely on if we wanted the world's way. As we end, I want to challenge you to think about how you are building resiliency in your faith. I know it's something that we are thinking as a leadership team about how we build that in our church, but I want to challenge you to think about that in your life and in your family. I actually think it can be pretty fun. I've come now to really like stretching and growing. It's just like a muscle, right? That's growing. So you invite people into your home. Maybe you volunteer for something out of your comfort zone. You talk to a different person after the service, or you reach out in your workplace or in your school, or you go on a mission trip. It just takes a change in your mindset. Maybe you have maybe consider having a disposition that maybe your kids, they won't automatically grow up to be a Christian. Like I know you want them to be a Christian and we're hoping for that, but have a disposition that they won't automatically do that. So then you have to work on it. Or think maybe my marriage may not survive or thrive automatically just because I married a mature Christian. So then you have to train, you have to work through your issues, you have to encourage one another, you have to stretch your servant leadership, these types of things. I'll let you in on a secret. Because people always ask me, how do I survive pastoring an Asian church for 20 years? I've actually learned to find the fun in it. I actually love pastoring this church. And I think that when you create for yourself ways to stretch and grow and build resiliency in your faith, you can actually have the mindset of, hey, this can be something that I want to challenge myself with, I want to grow, and it can be kind of fun. I've learned that it's better dealing with stretching and challenges when it's us, when you yourself are pursuing it intentionally, instead of it hitting you by surprise when you were expecting life to just be a cruise. James alludes to this when he says, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness then have its full effect, that you may be perfect, complete, and lacking in nothing." You see, this is the way of developing resiliency and resilient faith. So now I'm going to pass over to John Paul. I've known him for over 20 years. He's grown up in this church and he's now on our board. He's been faithfully serving and now overseeing our kids ministry. So over to you, JP. God bless.
Cool. Thanks, Chris. So we're going to end the service very shortly, but I suppose listening to that sermon, and I think all the great discussion that we've had today, I think it gives us real pause for what's going on in our lives at the moment. What is challenging us? What's that jungle that we see out there that we're either right in the middle of or we're about to enter into? I just wanted to share a little bit about
my story or our story in terms of our family. Because we've been through this, like many families here, but our story, really started about sort of 16, 17 years ago, when we had kids. And so that question about, well, what did you expect in your life? We expected everything that was written up there, right? Everything that you guys said, in terms of the, we wanted a family. We wanted, to see them be healthy. We wanted to see them grow up. We wanted to have, financial stability. All of the things that everyone has discussed today. And so, as you do, you go into these situations with a lot of hope, with a lot of expectation of all the great things and all the positive things. But along the way, it doesn't always pan out, that way. And so, both our kids are a real testament to the work that God has done in our lives. We, both our children have special needs, and I remember, if I cast my mind back to the first time, the day that we found out, right? I think it was, there's build up to that day. There's the tests, the meetings with doctors, all of that build up, and then you're coming to this point where you're going to hear, is there something potentially not quite right? And I remember when we went to the clinic, and everything was kind of normal, and you're still sort of thinking, no, I mean, you're thinking about the positives. You're thinking about there's not this element of acceptance that this could be a possibility, and so we had the meeting, and right at the end, they sort of delivered the diagnosis, and I remember, just being quite numb about the whole thing, and I probably did the worst thing that you could do in that situation, which was go back to work immediately after the meeting. And so I was sitting at in the client's office, and in front of my computer, and I think it was the first time ever that I had been just completely numb. Like I sat there, I stared at the screen, and I said, I looked to God and I said, what's this road that you have for me, for us? Because I think there are moments in life where, and look, hopefully this never happens to you, but it happens a lot. There are moments in your life where your world could come crashing down. When, you think that everything is unlimited, and all of a sudden limitations get put onto your life. But as we've heard today, the Lord is here. He's living. He is working. And so when people ask me, how do you know God is real? One of the ways is that over the last 16 years that I have seen the Lord show up. Every day. I've lost count. I've lost count to see how many times the Lord has shown up for us. And so I'm here to tell you that what we have spoken about today, what we've discussed, when you are in that deepest hole, you just have to turn your eyes to Jesus. And the Lord has done so much for us. When I look back now, the Lord has blessed us. The Lord has brought comfort, has brought help, and has really enabled us, to be a blessing to others, through this whole experience. And He continues to do that. And so we are a living testament, and glory to God for everything that He's done when you go through that jungle. And so I want to close this service by opening up the altar today, because I know that we're not the only ones. We're not the only people that, experience, what we might deem sort of catastrophic events, or or take big hits. So I know that there's a lot of people here that are going through the same, or are going through the same right now, or they can see it coming. And the Holy Spirit is here, and we serve and we worship a living God. And so I just want to invite you to stand right now. And if that's you today, if you need a breakthrough in your life, if you need to see the Lord work in your life, I want to invite you to come up and put that before the Lord. As we sing one more song, I just want to invite you to come up and really lay your burden down at His feet.